afternoon to the Thursday crowd. This is the pre-show part of the webinar where we've got about 7 minutes or so before we get started. For those of you who are tuning in now, welcome. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or Facebook, welcome to our free walkthrough of WordPress 5.8. That's right, we are going to dive fairly deep in the overview of what just arrived on Tuesday evening with WordPress 5.8. I will mention towards the end of this webinar, if you want to go even deeper and learn how to build these duotone settings and some theme customization stuff, I will be teaching some greater in-depth stuff as part of the WP Studio membership. But today we are going to dive deep and not just talk about what WordPress 5.8 is. We're going to work with WordPress 5.8, and we are going to see hands-on all the stuff that has changed and improved. And some of the stuff, I'll shoot straight with you, I'm not a big fan of some of the changes. And I'll explain that when we get to that part. So welcome again. This is the pre-show. This is just a time where you can set your screen sizing however you want to adjust things so that you can best see my screen. If you missed yesterday's free webinar, it's up in the YouTube channel as well. Basically, part of the reason I do the live webinars on YouTube is because YouTube's going to record it itself and automatically make it available. And so I don't really trim or cut much or edit much of the live recordings. That way, for those of you who are watching it after, you can experience it just as if you were with us live. Most of you probably have already upgraded your sites to WordPress 5.8. But I am pretty sure there's one or two areas where when I go to that screen, you're going to be like, whoa, I didn't know that existed. There's a bunch of hidden features in WordPress 5.8 that they don't really talk much about. So we are about 3 or 4 minutes to go. This is just the pre-show chat. For a few of my new members at WP Studio, welcome to possibly your first training event. Yes, it's a free event that's out here, but I just welcome the new members as well. And as just a reminder, during these live public free webinars, you can either ask your questions, participate in the chat on either YouTube or Facebook. I will get those questions directly fed to me. And so while we're walking through WordPress 5.8 today, if a question pops up or you're wondering if something behaves in a certain manner, you want me to demo something at a deeper level, just let me know and I can follow along and respond to those questions as they pop up. We're about 2 or 3 minutes away from getting started. I will kind of record and start right from the top of the hour. there is probably about a 30 or 45-second delay for the live feed. So where it may be 1 o'clock for me, it may not be that exact time for you if you're tuning in live. Got my cup of coffee here. Make sure that I stay focused. But one of the things with a new WordPress release is it's so easy to go down different rabbit trails and chase some interesting things. So as long as you are hearing my voice right now and seeing the WordPress 5.8 splash screen, you're in the right place and you have everything set on your side. All right, I'm just watching our clock. We got about a minute to go before we kick this off and get started. For the members of WP Studio, remember, we're not using the chat room over on WPstudio.com. We're using the chat rooms here in either Facebook or YouTube. Also, to the members of WP Studio, as part of the pre-show, just remember that I have dropped a whole bunch of updates and new plugins and tools into your GPL share box as part of your membership. So it's in there, and you can check that out in the forum as well. All right. On my end, it just turned 1 o'clock, so I'm going to hit the secondary recording, and we are going to get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back, everybody, to another free live WP Studio webinar. My name is Benjamin, and I'm either the professor or the guy who breaks the code or breaks the internet. Today, we are going to be looking at the latest release of WordPress, that's 5.8, that dropped back on Tuesday evening, East Coast time. So there's a lot that showed up on WordPress 5.8. And I wanted to take this time as part of the webinar to walk you all through this. And rather than just show you some slides or some blog post about here's this is what's coming, or this is what has arrived, I'm going to demonstrate them all, or at least try to demonstrate most of it. I will say it several times during this webinar that I do have deeper webinars or digging deeper webinars that take some of this new technology, the new code at a deeper level, but that's all part of the membership at WP Studio. So the first thing off, most of you probably have already updated your sites to WordPress 5.8. And if everything worked great, you probably don't notice any difference. That's always a good upgrade. When you don't notice any difference, and maybe you're coming here to find out the differences. Now, one of the things that it was interesting, I received 2 emails prior to this webinar from people who asked, hey, the screen we're looking at right now, this is the screen that shows up immediately after you update your WordPress site. And you say, oh, this is great. This has so much information. I wish I could read it. But maybe you went and did some work. You wrote another blog post. You were updating other things. And all of a sudden, you're like, wait, where did all that information go? Just a neat little trick, or just something to remind yourself, and maybe nobody's ever shown this to you before, if you ever want to see what is in the current release of WordPress that you're running, go up to the top admin bar, the drop down that says About WordPress, and just click on the highlighted W, the WordPress icon. That will always take you to the last updated splash screen. So if you ever want to get back there, sometimes you might use this information to generate a blog post or write more information or update your clients about some of the new features. That's how you can get back at that point. All right. So we are going to talk about the biggest issue or the biggest enhancement to WordPress with 5.8. And that is the whole idea that WordPress is moving towards FSE, or full site editing. This means this block editor or Gutenberg, the focus is, let me move this, I'm going to make these smaller. This is going to be a future appearance of full site editing. Now, for those of you who don't use the block editor, don't freak out just yet. I know many people still use the classic editor, and some of the stuff that we're going to do, we can still do with the classic editor, which is kind of cool. So one of the enhancements to 5.8 is it brought over some of the templating system both to the block editor and the classic editor, and I'll show you what that means. Now, for the most part, full site editing, it's not here yet, even though they promoted, hey, full site editing, partly because there's a lot of template mapping stuff that doesn't exist yet. There's navigation blocks that don't exist yet. There's certain types of block themes that are only just now starting to come on the screen or on the scene. But the whole full site editing, the release of 5.8, basically lays the foundation for what's to come. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at a number of these features. So the first one is anytime, and let me jump back over to the actual admin area. For years, if you wanted to, and here, let's do this. Let's just go over to the theme editor, and I'm going to show you a little bit of code here. I know we're not going to do too much. But if you were coming over here and you're going to work in your theme, a lot of times, if we want to change the way a single post page shows up, or an archive, or that means like the blog post page, or maybe we create custom post types and now we need a singular template for single posts from that custom post type, or we need a listing or an archive of those posts. All of those used to be here in the theme. So you'd come over here and you'd have a single post. And so the single post would have your loop and your template part and other elements out there. Well, actually, Paul, great question. And he's asking, what is full site editing? This is what the block editor is trying to solve. In the past, we had to be here. We had to be in the theme. You had to work in the templates. You had to understand template hierarchy and all this type of information. But what the block editor is trying to solve is not have to go to the template or the theme, not have to go to PHP, but instead design layouts in the block editor and then assign those to a single post, or assign those to the archive pages. Now, if you have been doing things with pods, with Metabox, with Elementor, the page builder, with Beaver Builder, and then using Beaver Themer, if you've been doing that, you're already in the kind of in the flow of understanding, hey, I've got to design a template and then assign it to some location. But for most people using WordPress, you haven't done that. You've just relied on the theme to give you what you need. This is a step in the future direction. So let's talk about, so the full site editing gives you the ability in one location to design a template, and that includes everything from the header stuff to the footer stuff, the content, the sidebars, everything is on one location. And then rather than going to the theme, to edit the PHP, you're going to do it right here. That's their goal. They're not there yet, so don't jump out of your boots going, oh my goodness, that's amazing. It's not there. But what they do have is there is a new template system. Now, let me go back to this theme. So sometimes I'm going to take you on a little bit of a rabbit trail just so you can understand why something exists. So here in are these were actually template files that we created in an old webinar where I was just showing you, hey, we can just drop in HTML and create all sorts of stuff in a site, in any type of WordPress site. But I can come over here. Let me grab a different template, page templates. Okay, so this is how templates used to work with, not used to, but still work. But this is what we would do. In our theme, we would design a PHP file that has the word template name. And then anytime, let me open up a new item. We go to this page. Anytime we're in this new page, we can drop from the template section, we can say, hey, we want to use this page builder theme. And that way, this page would load this code in order to differentiate between other areas. So this way you could design things, you could load different headers, you could load different sidebars based upon what somebody chose from here. Now, WordPress with 5.8 has released a hidden feature. Why? Because some of you, if you're just looking at your own WordPress website right now, unless you are loading the 2020 theme or maybe one of your third-party themes has already added this functionality, you're not going to see this thing that says new. Well, don't worry. You can go add it right now. In the functions.php file of whatever theme you're doing, you can do an add theme support block-templates. Just drop that into your functions.php file. And here's what happens. It creates this new button so that when I'm here and I'm saying, this is a new page, we're going to create a new page. But you know what? I don't want to use any of the themes templates, or I don't want to use the default template. I want to create a new template, which I can assign and design pre-made starting systems or something like that. Click new. And all of a sudden, I have the ability to have a new template. Let's call this one our starter page template. Name it whatever you want. Hit create. It opens up a brand new system. You know what it did? Basically, it dropped in a block. Basically, I can delete everything. This can be, we can say, hey, this is Canvas. Let's do that. Let's start this whole thing. We're going to just remove everything. We are given a straight blank canvas. And we're using the block editor. This is a new template. So I can say anytime anytime this page uses that template, I can say, all right, what we're going to do is I'm going to come in here and, all right, we'll put a container so we can have control over the width. Then I'm going to come in here and say, you know what? Let's come over here because now I have theme-based blocks. This is part of WordPress 5.8. I have theme-based blocks. So now I can say, all right, let's go ahead and add a post title. This is the new title, new page. But you know what? I want to make sure that that is always centered, and let's make it an H1. And let's go ahead and actually add a custom size of like 48 pixels or something over here in the typography. All right, so now we got this is a new page. And remember, it's taking that information from, we had just already put a new page. Now I can come in here right below that. Let's go ahead and look at our other theme items. Here's my post content. I don't have any post content yet. Type to choose a block. I don't have any content. So I'm just going to leave this here and let's publish this. And it's simply publishing the template and making sure it's assigned to a certain page. So let's save this. And then view the page. So we go back to this page. Oop, remember how there's no content? So we need to go back to our page. And I'm going to just show you, this is a new page. That's what we were working on. Let's create some content. This is some new content. Let me close these because these are from the theme and other plugins. Wow. I'm writing some amazing stuff. Now, because on the page we've chosen starter page template, when I go preview, that's what, oh, I have to save. Update, and then preview. See, here's my content. Oops, looks like I duplicated in that template. So we might need to change that. We need to edit the starter template. See, here I've got multiple content. So let's get rid of this one. Hopefully that didn't mess it up again. Now, I will tell you, this is one of the issues going on right now with 5.8 that people are figuring out. The template system is not quite where it should be. There still is some wonkiness. So let's go back to our page. Yeah, see, when we deleted it, it deleted both, even though we only deleted one. I can go back to edit the page, and we just don't have any content. Literally deleted it. So this is the direction where they're going. So for example, one of the things that we should see in the future is some of the groups are looking at, okay, if you design a new page template, then you could assign that template to a certain custom post type for an archive, or have that to be your 404 page, have that be your search results page, have that be, any number of pages that are normally dynamically generated by WordPress and controlled by the actual theme. Now, in here, just because I only showed you two things, part of why there's a huge benefit is there's now a query loop system. I already showed you post title and post content. So this will just pull the dynamic data from the WordPress database based upon what page is using this template. So if we're on a different page that has a different title, this is the new page is not what will be there. It'll be whatever is on that actual page. And then we have post data. You can choose to do an excerpt. There's the featured image, log in, out, post lists. And anybody see where there's a major issue, especially if you've been working for a long time with WordPress in advanced custom post types? There's no way to get custom fields in here. I'm sure that will be coming eventually, but there's a lot more data inside a WordPress loop in the actual template tags that is not being accessed. Now, one of the things that we could do with this archive page, and I want to just show you this query loop because this came with WordPress 5.8. So this has the ability to automatically generate, let me come over here for the block, our query loop. And basically, if we choose how to set this up, over here, we can choose whether or not it's a list view or whether we're going to be using, and I only have one blog post on this demo site right now, but I can choose to do a list or a grid. I can come over here and I can say, I want to select a certain custom post type. How do I want to sort it? Do I want to include the sticky posts or not? Do I want to filter things by keywords or authors or categories? So for now, WordPress 5.8 has brought to the table a very basic system. So quick recap before we move on to the next thing. If you want to start playing around with this right now, just drop this into your theme and you'll have that ability. Here's a problem. Well, it's a problem right now, what I'm going to show you, but it will be fixed, because those templates that you would be creating and designing with the block editor, they're saved as a custom post type, which is great, except the custom post type right now with WordPress 5.8 is not visible. You should be able to see it over here on the admin area. You can't, which means I cannot edit. I cannot delete a template that I create. So if you're playing around with here and you're like, oh, but I want to get rid of that. Nope, you can't get rid of that. Now I can come over here and kind of come in here, and then we can come over here and try and say, hey, but I want to delete this. Guess what? Do you see a delete? Oh, there it is. It's hidden. I knew it was there somewhere. I couldn't remember where it ended up with the final release. I have to go all the way in here and individually delete things, but I can't quite see all the templates in a single location. I have to go into a page creation area, then click on this, then come over here to the title where it says basically I'm going to change it, and then I can delete it. So then if I delete it, it goes ahead and removes it. It's no longer in this list. So just in case anybody starts to play around, you're like, oh no, how do I get rid of what I was playing around with? Well, that's how you do it. So that is the whole new template editing mode. Part of the reason is this is setting the stage for the future. Now, why did they save this as a custom post type? This is just some background information. Part of the reason why they saved it as a custom post type is we can use the WordPress export to export out the templates. Now, because I literally just deleted the last one, we're not going to see it here, and it's not fully supported yet. But it will allow us to export out any of those templates to use. It is buggy at the time, so be very careful playing around with the templates. But that's one of the big changes. Now, I showed you the theme blocks that are now all over here. Let me bring it over here. These are the theme blocks. These get to add that you're not really going to use any of these items, the post data, post excerpt, post featured image, post content, post title, on regular blog posts or regular things. You could use the query loop, or you could use the post list, or you could use the login or out on a regular page that you're designing, and you're doing other things. But these ones are really meant for the template editing. So I believe these will be moved around in upcoming WordPress releases, and they may not just stay in this kind of category for this. Let's see. Okay. So I'm about ready to show you something. Let's go to a different page. This is a new feature for WordPress that currently, sure, I can have like distraction-free design work, and I can just do some great design work in the block editor and make a more complex design. But in order to take full advantage of all the editing, I've got to open up this side panel so that I can customize any blocks or things that are going on. In the past, if I had a more complex layout like this, which actually has multiple grids and then grids inside grids, if I wanted to be able to select the exact proper block in here, I might get lost in trying to just hover over and click. I wrote a blog post about this on WP Studio because, yes, I can use my list view. Prior to WordPress 5.8, this would create a drop-down list, which was great. It still allowed me to have full space. Now, I'm broadcasting to you on a much larger side monitor, but if I were just on my laptop or on my tablet. And then I said, I need to navigate here. And I open up, a brand new panel on the left-hand side. Notice how my editor area is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Notice how it actually resized. It moved things in. Now, if I were doing full width, it literally would resize and text would wrap at a different location. So all of a sudden now, what was supposed to be a clean editor interface is starting to get more and more cluttered. So this is one of the things I don't like about 5.8, but I just wanted you to know where it is in order to find the location. Now, what you'll also notice, if you're used to using this list view in the block editor prior to WordPress 5.8, the tabs for each of the hierarchy items are much greater now, which means if I were to, let's just go as deep as we can. All right, let's add another grid here. Let's add another container in here, and we're going to add another container in here. And let's go ahead and add a grid in this one. And then in this grid, we're going to grab this one, and then we're going to come over here to this smaller one, which is, no, wait, this one. Oh, wait, no, this one. That's the one I want to edit. Look, we're all the way over here, and let's add something. Let's add a loop in here. And so now we're getting all sorts of stuff. And notice how if I were to continue with this, oh, this is horrible. I probably shouldn't have done this. Okay, let's go. I have Grammarly. Hold on, let me turn off Grammarly because Grammarly is just saying, hey, come on, I want to play. So bear with me 1 second. Let me just turn this off. Okay, so that way I can reach it. All right, so let's add another grid inside here, into here. Notice, and then let's go to this. I've actually lost. This grid cannot go any further. Oh, I can't even select that. There we are. Oh, there we are. Notice how this is what I'm trying to illustrate. My little panel will keep growing out and out and out. It doesn't stop. It's really bad. So if you, now the reason why I say this, for any of you who have clients, and you can be honest with me, clients never break anything. They always do everything the proper way with the WordPress site that you pass over to them. They never do anything that makes you scratch your head, right? I already know of one or two of your clients who are going to just simply have like 48 containers deep. And then they're going to have an image inside of an image inside of an image. And when they go edit this page, your little list view is going to take over half of the screen. That's where the problem with running this type of a screen. Now, not every place is going to have this type of an issue, but the deeper you get into building a hierarchy-based block nesting, it probably would have been better for them to keep this as a drop-down rather than now taking over space. Okay. Now that I've made an absolute mess of this, let's exit out. And, let's exit out, and I'll show you 2 or 3 things that you may be surprised on your current WordPress website. Now, most of you probably use widgets. Whether that's the widget on the sidebar, maybe you've got an update for your client or a news update that they put in their sidebar or something like that. Now, don't freak out if you haven't been to the widget area, because maybe you will, and you show up in the widget area and all of a sudden it looks different. That's right. By default, the widget area now is block-based, which, yes, you will get everything that currently exists on your site Don't freak out because normally you'll see this one that stretches the whole way. Just close that up and you will see all the widgets that exist on your site. It operates the same way as the block editor. If you want to change anything or add something, the worst part about this is, here's the thing. By default, if you want to add something, it's going to drop it in the bottom right here, add block. But if you are used to working in here and you're saying, hey, I want to add something right here after the search, you can't just hover over it. You literally have to click the search. And then when this block is activated, you can then hover below it and add a block, and that will allow you to add something in between those items. It's just a little trick of the trade. So then I can come over here, find some widgets, and basically all the widgets are still there in their own little section in the block editor, where now I can come in here and say, all right, let's go ahead and find the latest posts. Again, already there, boom, latest posts, where I can come in here and edit those blocks for the latest posts. So this is one of the things you will see. And by default, it is there existing on your website. Now, maybe this is worth the entire webinar right here. How many of you already are saying, my client is going to freak out? It took me 8 years just to teach them how to use the old widget area. Have no fear. Go to your functions.php file. And you are going to just simply type into your functions.php file in your active theme, and you can do this: remove theme support widgets block editor. You can do that. And then you save that. You can go back here, go to your widgets, leave. And, oh, hold on. Let me go back to the other one. Just make sure. Let me add the add filter, use widgets, block editor. Sorry, I needed both of these. Return false. Basically, it's a filter that should make sure my widget screen is back to normal. Everybody got that? Here, I will make it super easy. I'm going to just copy these and I'm going to put them in the chat so that you can have those pieces of code. Just drop it in there, and no matter what your stuff is, you will be back to your traditional widget area. Now, I'm going to remove those because I do want to show you that, let's say you're using a theme like GeneratePress, or you're using VocePress, where you are used to using the customizer for a lot of settings. Well, part of one of the things that now happens when we go to the widget area and say, here's my sidebar that I want to work with, guess what? Now the same type of widgets, the block editor widgets, can be handled in the sidebar. The first time you show up here, you're going to say basically, hey, I need to use the block editor or not for the widgets. If you say got it, you're going to be presented with now a inline block editor for this sidebar. So I can now add a block. It's going to open it up right here. I can now say, hey, include my social icons. Where's my social icons? Here's my block. This is where it gets a little bit difficult because I have to show more settings. It then goes over to this area and then allows me to create my blocks. It feels more cramped over here, but it at least works out properly. So the block widgets are there, and they allow you to do a number of things that makes items. Now, let's go back to the block editor, and I got one more thing to show you that comes new with the block editor. Let me close these down. All right. So when I'm creating a block, so let's say we're going to design a block and I'm just going to grab a heading, and this is an amazing heading. And I'm looking at this and saying, oh my goodness, that is such an amazing design work. And I can't believe this is so awesome. It is now so much easier and streamlined, both from the back end, the optimization of the code, and the accessibility to turn this into a reusable block. So I can say, oh, this is an amazing heading. Haha. Now I can say add to reusable block. We don't have to do groups and we don't have to do other things before. We can simply just say, hey, I like this block, everything I've done with it. Add to reusable block. I name my block. Awesome block. Hit save. Boom. It is now fully reusable. It has been created as a reusable block. Notice how the block even now has that name, amazing block. So that if I go to another page, let's go to another page that we were already playing, the sample page that we had. Oh, good. We didn't save it. So now I can come over here and say, you know what? Let's browse all my stuff. And I now have a reusable area. Reusable block. Boom. This is the amazing heading. It drops it right in there. So, and because now your sidebar also handles the block editor, you can use the sidebar. This is part of what the full site editing block editor dream is. I can make a block anywhere. I can manage those reusable blocks, showing you, see, it's an actual custom post type where I can add new ones. There's no way to access these unless you do what I just did. You're like in the editor, then you click on the manage of that. This is the only way to get to this location, but it looks just like a regular editing area. But I can create reusable blocks and then save them. So that's one of the things that was made. There's a lot of improvements for that. Now let's go back to this page, and I'll show you a few of the improvements as well for kind of, I've read people call them normalization of toolbars. For example, we have a toolbar up top. We have a toolbar in the side. We do have the ability to have this fly out on the left. But when I click on this, then we have a toolbar that semi-floats. If you want to normalize things and say, toolbars should exist above the content and to the side of the content, not in the middle of the content and covering other things, there now is the ability over here in the option, say top toolbar. Check this top toolbar and look what just happened. That toolbar that is connected to this block now shows up here. It's out of the way. I can work within this and any of the settings that I need to do, change the thing to align right, moves the thing over, text color. It's now, I need to actually highlight this. Text color. There we are. And Paul, great question on, are there any things that's been reported in 5.8? I have not found any reports that are hold off. That's why I did show you the editing of the template, because that still has, it's kind of buggy, but for the most part, if you don't turn it on in your theme, you're not going to have access to it. So you're perfectly fine updating. All right. Now here is one of the things that I think is revolutionary, and it's part of what 5.8 prepared for the release. And it's this. Let's go back over here. Currently, there are tons and tons of plugins that add designs, add blocks, do all these type of things. WordPress 5.8 really released a uniform system for patterns. You may have seen a few of these where patterns would be like, well, let's align an image to the left and text to the right. Or a pattern would be, let's space out 3 or 4 buttons together. And that's a pattern that we are going to put into the Gutenberg block editor. As part of 5.8, I can honestly see there's going to be a number of third-party premium plugins that only offer plugins / designs basically go out of business. Let me introduce you to patterns. And this is where I believe a lot of the core devs have been dreaming of the direction of where it's going. For example, you go to this pattern site and all this stuff is free. And you're sitting here saying, you know what? My client needs a podcast subscription box. Oh, does it? So let's go ahead and click on this. I'm going to just so I can see a bigger view of this. And I'm like, you know what? That's too big. What size do I want? Let's do a medium one. Oh, no, let's go ahead. Let's make it bigger. Copy pattern. Click the copy pattern. Okay, it's now saved in my copy paste the clipboard. Let's go to my WordPress site, create a new page, and say, join my podcast. In the block area, I'm just going to do a Control V, which is paste, and blammo. See what just happened? I have a podcast page done. I did not need a plugin. I did not need a subscription to a template library. And guess what? Every one of these are simply blocks. Notice how this is basically, this is the Spotify content block. These are just button blocks. I can edit this. I can come over here and see, all right, this is what it looks like. I have a button grouping and individual buttons. Each of those individual buttons can be changed. If I say, hey, I'm not going to use Pocket Casts, I can go ahead and just delete that one. And I delete Pocket Cast. And let's go ahead and delete Stitcher. And it automatically creates what I need. So these patterns, people are just going to start dumping designs into this pattern area that will help you get started. And you're like, I would love something that would give me, I don't know. They're not very descriptive. They even have just headings, different layouts of content and text. And yes, George, you do have to say blammo. That's a requirement. Otherwise, the WordPress listening device does not hear and properly manage everything. I mean, we've got so many other devices that are listening to us. Why doesn't WordPress? So that whole block editor with these patterns is going to change the course of what we're doing. A few of the other things that you're not going to see in WordPress is WordPress now fully supports WebP as an image in the media library. This means that now you can upload, it will recognize WebP, and we can begin to optimize almost all of our images in WordPress with a faster image system. I have a blog post coming out tomorrow on WP Studio, and you'll definitely want to check that out on the blog post. But I go through the top 15 image file types and try and explain the differences when you would use that. But WebP is a big thing when it comes to updating just WordPress capability. I am not going to talk about today one of the major changes in WordPress 5.8, and that is the theme styling system. So a theme can actually include a JSON file in the theme that will automatically pre-style everything, whether it's the typography, whether it's the button types, whether it is any type of layout. You can actually see that if you come over here and this item, where developers can basically set global styles, typography, color palettes all these items so that when you open up certain block, you're only given certain colors. This would be great for clients. So, for example, if you had something like this where your client is adding an image, and we have a drop down. I don't have any settings here, but you would only give them 2 or 3 types of styles, or 2 or 3 images that they can choose from. They can't add their own. So developers now have a greater flexibility of adding a theme.json file. It gets loaded in, and we'll do a lot of webinars on this at WP Studio as part of the membership to get greater control over what you can and can't do. This also would allow you to eliminate, if you've ever gone through the typography of the block editor and you say, hey, show me the sizes of fonts, it will do everything from extra, extra small, small, normal, large, custom. Well, with the theme.json file, we can simply just say, hey, let's just do small, normal, and large. Let's leave off the other things. So you can actually control what is displayed and what is used. Let me see if I have any other notes for. There's a few other there's a few other things, and I think here dropping support for Internet Explorer, great benefit for those of you who still have clients with old stuff. We need to encourage them to get rid of or upgrade their browsers. There's a bunch of REST API stuff. We're not going to go into it for this because there's a lot of developer stuff. But the biggest item here is the block editor is becoming used in more locations. I just remembered what I was going to show you. That template editing thing is so cool that watch what happens when I turn on the classic editor. Where'd it go? Classic editor, which means I'm turning off the block editor, and I'm back here in my regular WordPress environment. My templates are here. Now, because I deleted the prior template, I can still access all the templates that I design and I add using the block editor. They will show up here. So it's entirely possible you could spend time designing here, but not adjust the client's access. Maybe the client will still end up using this. Let me refresh. There we are. So they could still be here, but we could design complex templates that we can assign it, which means then there are other blocks that are pulling information, and we're just pulling the title and the content directly here. So that's one of the goals of full site editing. Removing your requirement or the need to go to PHP and into the theme file, and you should be able to handle it all here. Now, so I say all this type of stuff. You can still turn off everything to do with the block editor. You can still use the classic editor. I showed you the code that you can turn off the widget area, so you can still use the widget area as you need, and therefore it is perfectly fine for you to still update to WordPress 5.8. I think those are the key areas of WordPress 5.8, and we kind of covered them. But the pattern thing, watch the news over the next few weeks and months. I honestly think you're going to see people who are going to try and, hey, we're going to sell premium patterns ourselves. It's going to be a wild west of patterns that are out there. So much so that there's going to be tons of free pattern systems, and there's going to be premium pattern systems. But you saw how easy it was. Even these free pattern systems, all it requires is a button to copy it, and it automatically, I can paste this and get this exact design right on the block editor. So the patterns are going to, I think, change a big portion of how new blocks are created. So partly, I think we're going to get some quality designs coming because people don't have to learn all sorts of JavaScript and how to register a block and how to do all it, because patterns can simply be copy and pasted. So I hope this has been helpful. If you want to dive even deeper into some of this stuff and look at how to create theme JSON files, how to create patterns, how to uh, go the next level with prepping all this stuff for a client site. These are things that we do over at WP Studio, part of the premium membership, along with the GPL share box, the forums, all the WP Studio plugins and themes that are there, access to the private webinars as well. So I encourage you to check it out. Head on over to WP Studio if you want to learn more. And if not, hey, welcome. All are welcome on our free webinars here at WP Studio. So make sure you subscribe to the channel here at WP Studio on YouTube. Follow the Facebook if you've been watching from that location. It always helps if you give a like, I guess, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day. And I will say one other thing. I send out anytime I schedule free events, I will send out emails. And those emails if you're not signed up, and basically if you didn't receive an email on Monday or Tuesday, you're probably not subscribed. So what you want to do is go over to WP Studio and sign up for the email. Basically, I just tell you when things are happening and what's happening. Make sure you're signed up. If you're already a member, you're already going to get all that information in your emails. So take care. Have a great rest of the day. And hopefully I'll see you on a future webinar. Enjoy 5.8. And I will let anybody know if there is an issue with 5.8, but I have not found anything that causes any showstoppers. Take care. Have a great rest of the Thursday, and I'll see you guys around.